So today I want us to focus in on this the school to prison pipeline. This is something that may be new to some and review to others. What is that? I mean, what is that all about?
So there are many schools of thought around the school to prison pipeline. There is a common notion that the achievement of a child has a direct impact on their future. And there is a lot of data that supports that children who have challenges in school that lead to risk factors also end up having um, encounters with law enforcement, which ultimately can lead to involvement in the juvenile justice system, which ultimately can lead to involvement in the criminal justice system, not only during juvenile years, but also into adult years.
Wow, wow. And I was looking up a few statistics on this, and I found that the school to prison pipeline, the Black students represent 31% of the school related arrests. And it also mentioned that Black students are suspended and expelled three times more than white students. I mean, as educators, what else is there to know about this issue? And then later on during this conversation, we'll talk about solutions. But I want to kind of look at, okay, what is the what, right? For those who don't know, like what else is there that educators need to know about this?
Well, I think one of the things that we have to have an honest conversation about is racism. And understanding that there are some institutional racism um, that contributes to creating policies and practices that marginalize children, that disenfranchises people. And oftentimes, the most marginalized and disenfranchised people are overrepresented by African Americans, people of color in general. So when we talk about the education system, then we have to look at the conditions in which children are introduced to our education system. And there's a wide gap in some cases in how children are introduced to our education system. So, we have to think about, um, how our children come into school. Now, we can talk about, there is a word gap from birth to kindergarten, where we know that there's a 30 million word gap between, many children of color and their white counterparts, which means that if we're expecting children to be ready to learn, reading to learn by third grade, and they're learning to read between kindergarten and third grade, then that is a huge gap to overcome if our kids have a vocabulary significantly less. We can talk about achievement data such as algebra readiness by eighth grade, whether or not children have, quality textbooks, access to technology, teachers who've been stable in a school for more than 2 or 3 years. All of those are contributing factors. But to me, the number one factor that determines a child's level of engagement, their attitude about school, their self-esteem, their self-actualization, has to do with how the people who stand in front of them see them when they are in their classrooms. Are they humanized in that classroom? Do those teachers have empathy? Do they see themselves in those children? Do they see their potential? And so, one of the things that becomes important is how we engage with them. And I know we're going to talk about solutions later on, but we can't, we have to be careful about how we approach children behaviors and see those behaviors as a function of their youth that need direction, support, and engagement in a way that helps them focus, and not as act of mischievous, of being mischievous, being disobedient,
Mm-hmm.
being delinquent. And oftentimes, as early as kindergarten, first grade, we're taking typical youthful behaviors, youthful indiscretions, and we begin to discipline them in a way that's almost criminal. That we see the behavior and we respond to the behavior, but we don't, respond as quickly to the need to support and re-engage. And engagement is critical for our students to then learn from an experience that they have, positive or negative, and then move forward.